sorry for such a very cold opening, but I would like to face the message that every single outlet of the mainstream media has been propagating and pushing on the American people. All the SJWs on YouTube and Google and Twitter, they've all been they've all been just putting forward this message, and all the anarcho communists on George Soros's payroll, they're also in on this. I mean, it's the one thing that the neo Nazis and the KKK are willing to join hands with Antifa in, in just trying to legitimize this issue as as something that needs to be brought up by the standard American people. Sean Hannity had a 30-minute Fox News rant. Wolf Blitzer almost took up an hour explaining it on CNN. And I'm here to address this slanderous, terrible message that I do not wear pants while recording this podcast. And what I have to say about that is every single one of them are correct. We're good. I'll edit this part.
Roll the intro.
Roll the intro.
Welcome to the 9190 podcast with yours truly, Big Gonzo over there to my left.
Nick.
And
we got the bodacious Westerner, Midwesterner.
Don't get that mixed up. It's Midwesterner.
Midwesterner. All right. We grew up on the best coast, the Midwest coast.
the Midwest.
I saw that on a t-shirt at Riot
Midwest
Fest.
side.
Midwest side. Midwest side.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a W.
Midwest side. You guys can't see it, but we're making using our index fingers and middle fingers, we're making an M, and then we're flipping it to a W. So Midwest coast.
Yeah, it's our gang sign. It's our calling card, you know.
Yep.
Whenever we're walking down the street, we see a shady person, we just flip on the Midwest sign, and then they flip it back. It's like, all right, he's cool.
Yep.
He's cool.
That's actually how the genocide is going to work. Is that we're just gonna do that.
We're gonna go around. This is like our litmus test.
That's our purity test.
The purity test, yeah.
And if they manage to pass that one, we bring over like a bubbler, and we ask, is this a water fountain or a bubbler?
Okay, I think it's more of a Wisconsin thing than a Midwest thing, though.
Well, I mean, still, if we need a part 2 to our genocide.
It's like there's layers, you know. There's like
yeah,
you know.
All right, so kind of keep it on our Midwestern Wisconsin roots. I figured I'd go a little bit more into our background. We're kind of from an area of Wisconsin that doesn't exactly have like a I don't know, like a leftist side to it.
I don't know.
Like, okay, the county that we live in and that we're actually recording this in is 98% white, according to the 2010 census. And, so yeah, we're whiter than white bread, man.
The whole state.
Yeah, might as well the whole state. Screw it, Milwaukee and Kenosha and all of the other ones can fuck off, you know. We pretty much started this podcast because we wanted to like share our views without being called Russian bots on Twitter.
Without being called communists.
Yeah, and without being called communists, and mostly because
and without our families hating us.
Yeah, you know, our family deciding to disown us. All right. So first thing I want to dive into. Yeah, you got the motherfucker himself. Motherfucking Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey.
K-Pax, can't deny that.
What is that name?
K-Pax, I don't know. I think someone at Mega 64 said it one time, and
okay.
I've just been carrying it since.
Okay.
However, recently Anthony Rapp, I believe I didn't check IMDb before this, but I believe he was in the original Broadway run of the play Rent.
Yep, I saw that. Yep.
He is accusing Kevin Spacey, or bringing up an allegation that Kevin Spacey he tried to sleep with him at a Hollywood party when Anthony was only 14.
Yeah.
And instead of like actually apologizing, K-Pax himself made like his first Twitter post in 2 weeks to pretty much say like, I'm sorry I was drunk and I don't remember it.
Yeah.
And then used it to like deflect into saying, or into coming out of the closet, and like...
You want me to read the full quote here?
Sure, go ahead.
Alright, I got the full quote here. This story has encouraged me to address other things about my life. I know that there are other stories out there about me and that have been fueled by the fact that I have been so protective of my privacy. He continued, he also acknowledged for the first time publicly that he now chooses to live as a gay man. Or he said, I now choose to live as a gay man. And before he was basically trying to defend himself because, he was drunk. He's basically said, but if I did behave as he describes, I owe him the sincerest apology for what I've been deeply inappropriate drunken behavior.
Which to me essentially like boils down to like, oh, sorry I was drunk. I don't remember it. Like I don't remember it ever
sorry
happening
at all, but I was drunk, so whatever. You can't blame me, bro.
Yeah, you can't blame me. I was drunk, bro. And I mean, I've had my fair share of getting trashed. I know you have too.
Absolutely.
But of all the times that I have been wasted, I don't think I've ever tried to sleep with a 14-year-old.
Not yet.
Not yet. Damn.
That was a joke.
You know, there's a first time for everything, ladies and gentlemen.
That was a joke.
That was a joke. I'm sorry.
I do not feel the need to climb on top of 14-year-olds.
Yeah. However, most of like the places that were reporting Kevin's in this whole response to the allegations, they mostly like framed it as like, oh, cool, Kevin Spacey's coming out of the closet by like,
every news outlet came out with Kevin Spacey's gay, yay!
Yeah.
The LGBTQ community just got a W today. It's like, no.
There was one good post that I shared with you, and he's I don't want to say like a spokesperson for the LGBTQ community. However, he is a part of it. And he said this isn't like there isn't a reason to celebrate for Kevin Spacey's coming out because it wasn't really prideful at all, or like it wasn't like, it was more of like a forced thing to say than like actually saying like, hey, I've talked it over with everyone, I know my allies, and like I'm coming out. No, this was just kind of like, oh, by the way, yeah, I've slept with other men. Like, you can't blame me for sleeping with a 14-year-old because I've slept with other men.
Yeah, it wasn't like a coming out. It was just like more of a
it was like
excuse.
like trying to soften the blow almost.
It's like, I climbed on top of a 14-year-old because I was gay.
Yeah.
Or because I am gay.
Yeah, because I am gay now.
It's like, dude, you can't just do that.
Yeah, I climbed on a 14-year-old in the 1980s because I'm gay in 2017.
There's been 8 more people that have come forward with their own allegations against him.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they didn't. They listed the names, but most of them were just anonymous, so I just skipped that part. Just know that there's at least 8 more that have come forward since then.
Oh, shit.
Netflix actually suspended the House of Cards.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. They're actually looking... Okay, so their first idea was to just kill his character off. Because they really don't want to go through the making the show anymore with him on it.
Oh. Okay.
but they're trying to find a better way to do it or something, or I don't know. Like
Okay.
I don't. They just like kind of listed some ideas, like oh, they're just gonna kill the character off, or they're just gonna cancel the show altogether, or. But it's
Yeah.
like a really popular show, so they're not just gonna cancel it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been like 100% online the last couple days, unlike the other person in this room. But
Hey. Oh, he was actually he was gonna uh, get awarded the Emmys Founder Award this year at the Emmys, and the Emmys Founder Award, like, what it's for is an individual who crosses cultural boundaries to touch humanity.
oh boy.
They were gonna give that to him, and then
He
this
touched-
shit
He
came
touched
out.
something.
You know,
I'm
I was
terribly
gonna
sorry.
make-
I'm terribly sorry for
I
that.
want you to know, I was gonna make that joke when I saw that, but I was like, okay, maybe a little too soon. It's
Yeah, Chapo can have that one.
Hey, Chapo.
All right. Yeah, Kevin Spacey.
He's just a scumbag, bro.
Yeah. Really, we've learned who the real Kevin Spacey is.
Yeah.
Next, we got some. And we're bringing back the Civil War, I guess.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're going back. We're gonna take you back to the '60s, the 1860s. White House Chief of Staff John Kelly and White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I don't know who prompted all these Civil War questions, but essentially both have said that, well, the Civil War could have been avoided if the two had compromised, essentially.
Yeah.
And like,
There's-
yeah,
Yeah. This is like, oh, Civil War could have been avoided if there was just compromise. It's like, what?
what sort of crossing party boundaries?
You mean the 3/5 compromise?
Yeah. Oh, the 3/5 compromise is now the 4/5 compromise.
Ooh.
Yeah. Don't
Everything
worry,
would have been avoided.
don't worry, black people. Wait until the 1900s when the suffrage movement comes along. Then you'll be 9/10.
And then when Sarah Huckabee Sanders got asked about it, she didn't have anything to say about it, I guess.
Oh yeah, she pretty much declined to comment as to whether there would be a compromise to slavery. Like, oh, well, we're gonna regulate the slave industry. Like, it's like, like no, you can't. Okay, are you for slavery or are you against slavery? And I earnestly to God hope that you say against slavery.
Well, of course.
Of course, obviously.
Everyone should be.
So yeah, now to take you back to the present.
Yeah, let's not talk about that anymore. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is all a bunch of ridiculousness.
All right.
We're
We're going into sports. I
gonna
mean,
jump into sports now. Okay.
it's not. I mean, it's not a featured presentation of our show, but
Of course it is.
unless you're like this really like into NFL kind of person, the Patriots traded their backup quarterback Jimmy G to the 49ers. I'm not sure what they got back out of it or whatever.
They got a second round pick.
Oh wow, they really gave him up. Anyways, however, when they traded their backup quarterback away, they signed Brian Hoyer, who some people may know as like the one of like the 50 different Cleveland quarterbacks in the past 3 years.
Is that where he's from?
I don't know.
I was gonna look that up. Like, where did Brian Hoyer play last year?
Yeah, you could just look up list of 32 NFL teams, and you'd probably be pretty close.
All right, so
But
so he's played
anyways,
for everyone. Okay.
so he's played for and he's bounced around the league, so to say. But anyways, one of the big tidbits that was also added into was that the Packers had wanted to sign him, or that the Packers were in the running to actually sign
the
him too.
Packers, Derry.
Hey, I gotta talk to them about them Packers, dearie, playing up in Green Bay. Coming down from Upertown.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, Charlie Barron signed me to co-host of the Manitowoc Minute, you chump.
I doubt he'll ever see this.
Oh, no, there's statistically zero chance.
Right, back to the Packers. Wanted them.
This and with Ted Thompson and Mark Murphy, who are like the main two guys of the Packers organization, the owner and I should say the main owner and not some dude who lives in fucking New London who gave $200 to the organization for a piece of paper on his wall, so he can say that I'm an owner of the Packers and
What's his name?
Mark Murphy.
Mark Murphy.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, those two came out with comments that they had actually tried to pursue Brian Hoyer with Aaron Rodgers being out for the season.
And, if you didn't know that, Nick, Aaron Rodgers is not playing next week.
Oh, thank you. I'll take him off my fantasy.
Bro, I'm not kidding you. I'm gonna tell a little story before we get back into this. I'm sorry. I gotta tell you about this.
Oh boy.
So I bowl with my dad on Monday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And we were driving, or it's a 20-minute drive to the bowling alley.
Mm-hmm.
And we were listening to some Packers show.
Oh boy.
And they were talking Packers, obviously, and they're like, Aaron Rodgers will not be playing this weekend. And me and Dad look at each other like, well, yeah. And then, not shitting you, 4 minutes later, they're like, in case you didn't know, Aaron Rodgers was still out for the rest of this, or projected for the rest of the season. I'm like, all right, that's the second time in 5 minutes he said that. I'm not kidding. He brought it up 2 more times before we got there. He said it 4 times in a 20-minute span that Aaron Rodgers was not going to be there. And that was the joke for the rest of the night. It was just like, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers not going to play tonight. It was funny.
Well, with Aaron Rodgers being out, obviously Hundley has not been the greatest person at the helm, even though there was a bye week last week. And one of the big things that Mike McCarthy had said before Hundley's first start, last 2 weeks ago, I should say, is that he was not pursuing a quarterback when asked about if he would sign Kaepernick if it came down to it. And he said, I have trust in Callahan and Hundley that they will lead our team in the absence of Aaron Rodgers, and that we don't need to sign anyone. Which by anyone he pretty much meant Kaepernick, because I believe the reporter did drop Kaepernick's name during it. And so now seeing that the upper management has been pursuing a quarterback, obviously, maybe, I don't know, it's either they're looking for they're looking for a QB in absence, or Mike McCarthy just kind of lied to the mic.
Which probably, I mean, at the time,
yeah,
he was probably just like, no, we're fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about anything, we'll handle it.
Yeah, maybe it was Hundley's first game that gave him a change of heart.
Well, I wouldn't blame him.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame him either.
He's a great kid, but
yeah,
I would not blame him at all. He's kind of been struggling. And Mark Murphy is actually the president and CEO, not an owner.
Okay.
The city owns it.
Oh, true. That's right.
Because when you said owner, I was like, nah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he's a owner. But, yeah, dog.
Yeah.
So. Hey, the Packers.
Yeah, eat your Packers. Next on our list.
Are we going to talk about some Don Jr. here?
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about Donnie J.
Donnie J.
Triple D.
Donald.
Diaper Don.
DJ TJ, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Donald J. Trump Jr.
All right.
Hey.
If you didn't know, Halloween was last weekend. Check your calendars. You can verify this.
I've eaten all my candy already.
I didn't even have any candy, so, I mean, you can't. Yeah.
Are you American?
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is America. We eat candy on Halloween.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We eat pounds of candy on Halloween.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry that I had my great American mixture of, what is it, tofu and celery. That's what I give out at Halloween. I'm one of those kind of people.
Bro, I saw this video this week, and it was like giving random shit out for Halloween.
Oh boy.
This dude gave out a cup of water, celery. I'm trying a plate, a plate of food, like sausages and like cooked eggs. It was like a plate of food. I was just like, this is the greatest video ever. And one of them, he just like opened the door, took a handful of candy, and just tossed it in this little girl's face, and slams the door. Like, this dude is brutal, but it's awesome.
There was this one dude I saw on Twitter. He was serving shrimp cocktails, or like cocktail shrimp to all the people that came.
Yo, that's gonna. I want to do that next year, bro. I want to.
Dude, we gotta be those guys that just like give out the weirdest shit for Halloween. Hey, look at you, you little Power Ranger. You know what you get? You get a half-drank bottle of fucking Gatorade.
If it wasn't so expensive, I would buy like potted plants and hand out potted plants to people. Like the whole thing, just like this 10-pound plant
in this fucking clay pot still.
Just Happy Halloween.
Yeah. But you know who would get half of that potted plant?
Socialism.
Yeah, socialism. According
Those damn Nazis.
Yeah. Damn Nazis and their socialism.
Alright.
So Donnie J would get half of that tomato plant that you're giving to that Power Ranger who stumbled upon your doorstep.
Don't give Donald Jr.'s child a potted plant because
Donnie J's
John's gonna cut half of it down. You know, give it to socialism.
Yeah, just completely ignoring the fact that, like, oh well, I'm taking this candy away because this is a quote unquote socialist America. It's like, all right, so you're gonna completely ignore the fact that your daughter just went door to door asking for hangouts.
Waiting
for handouts.
Okay, so he joked. If people don't know about this, so he joked this week on Twitter. He posted a picture of his daughter with her candy bucket.
Yeah, with like a half of the candy bucket.
He tried to joke. It was a terrible joke, but he was like, "I'm gonna take half of this candy and give it to children that sat at home to teach her about socialism." Even though, like Nick said, walking around asking for handouts is literally the right's definition
of
socialism.
Yeah. I don't even want to say the actual definition of socialism. Just like.
Yeah, not the actual, but like.
Not the actual, just like the most like commonly believed. Like all these people are sitting on their ass asking for handouts, and then. Then it turns into, oh, look at all these children dressed as Power Rangers sitting on my front porch asking for handouts. No, that's good.
Liberals.
Yeah, fucking liberals.
Fucking liberal Nazis.
So
he considers himself a good Christian, right?
I think he does, yeah.
And he's teaching his daughter not to be generous and not to share.
Yeah.
To be super greedy.
Pretty much, yeah. That's like the perfect fucking Trump analogy right there.
It's like one of Christianity's main thing is charity.
Mm-hmm.
And this dude is just like, socialism is bad. You gotta be greedy. He goes, damn. Did you see Chrissy Teigen's clapback?
I did not.
Because I was scrolling through that tweet and it was like the fifth one down or something. I just saw Chrissy Teigen. I was like, oh, okay. She usually has some funny thing or something funny to say about these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it read, "You are such a maniacal douchebag, born rich and employed by your disgusting father. What a teacher you are." That's all it said. Just straight up. I was like, What? She's a savage, bro.
Then I saw like other political hot takes, like completely like disarming his entire premise. I think it was Cranch Nelson. He just pretty much said like, no, I wouldn't say that's quite a good, or like, that's more of a good analogy for capitalism. Taking half of someone's hard-earned payings and pocketing for reasons they can't understand.
So true. I just love like
The blowback from that
yeah,
tweet.
like it was almost like everyone. It wasn't just like the
Yeah.
left on Twitter or whatever. It was like literally everyone had a problem with this because he's literally stealing his kids' candy.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro.
So, talking about kids, Pizzagate. No, wait, take that back.
What?
No, actually, not kids in Pizzagate, but
Pizzagate.
talking about young adults, uh, Labour, uh, the Labour Party in the UK. One of their big issues, or one of their big things in 2017 that they want to make as part of law in the UK is decreasing the voting age to 16. And it
Is it 18 right now?
it is currently 18, and I mean, just as like a perspective, I guess. Um, now I'm probably gonna get totally ratioed if ever anyone ever finds this. It's just like that's not at all how schooling in the UK works. But I
Do they?
believe schooling is damn near mandatory up to 16, and then additional education can go like up to 18 and beyond. So like essentially 16 is your GED, like in America equivalent. But however, you are allowed to join the army starting at 16, and you're also allowed to drink at 16 as long as your parent or guardian buys the drink for you. And
Yeah.
uh, so I mean, now putting that in perspective
Wait,
to the
you can
United States,
join. Did I hear you right? They can
Yeah.
join the army at 16.
you can join the army at 16 in the UK.
That's that's crazy.
It is a bit crazy.
That's crazy.
But essentially, like, I mean, it almost, and now obviously we're from America. If you haven't heard us talk about it a jillion times before, America, fuck yeah.
Come here to save the motherfucking day, yeah.
Um, in America, however, you got to be 18 to join the army, and you got to be 21 to drink, which is straight up obnoxious in my opinion.
I know, it's like you're like a half adult at 18.
Yeah,
You can do all this stuff,
yeah, and even in Wisconsin,
but
like
not drink. You can't buy a handgun.
yeah,
I'm trying to think of other stuff.
I was
You
gonna say
can't rent a car yet.
no,
I don't think you can rent a car until you're 25.
really.
You can't rent a hotel. In,
Oh yeah, we learned that one.
Illinois.
We learned that one the hard way in fucking Chicago. You can't rent a hotel in Illinois if you're 18. That one you got to be 21 for. Yeah, we learned that one the hard way. But Riot Fest was a fucking riot.
It was a riot.
Yeah.
We rioted at Riot Fest.
So, and like to America, this seems like an almost alien concept of like, why the hell would you let 16-year-olds vote? However, just as like a general consensus, you should be able to one drink or whatever laws your country has to either A drink or B join the army or C get out of schooling.
Yeah.
That should be like your country's definition of like an adult age, and that should be where voting comes in too. So like as long as you're in like what as it stands in the UK, like if you can join the army at 16, but you're not allowed to vote for people that would send you to war.
That's crazy.
That
I'm
As a-
sorry, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
yeah,
If you're getting sent to war at 16, you should be able to vote.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
And I mean there was and I mean that was also like one of the big things in the United States back in the 60s because some states and I know West Virginia is one of them because I remember reading this. In the 60s, you could be sent to Vietnam and or you would be drafted to go to Vietnam. However, in most states, you weren't able to vote until you were 21, even if the draft age was 18, which, in my opinion, is just absolutely horrendous. You were also allowed to drink at 18, so you could have a beer, and you could join the army,
But you can't vote.
but you can't vote.
All right.
And
I just think they should just pick an age and go with it.
I'll just say, and the song by who was it? Fuck, Barry McGilmore, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
it's called the Eve of Destruction, and essentially it's played. It makes its rounds every 4 years whenever a president gets inaugurated, whether it's by the left or by the right. And essentially, one of the lyrics in there was like "old enough to kill, but not for voting." And I think it was in part like that lyric did help push legislation to make the voting age like all around 18.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, going back to labor, I now obviously labor being the left wing of politics of the UK. I mean I do support them. I support Corbyn, the absolute boy.
The boy.
Jezza!
The boy Corbyn.
uh, I do support this, and now even though it's a bit foreign and it still is a hot topic in the UK, I do support Labour's position on this that it should be 16 as a rule of principle.
Especially if you're going to war. You should, yeah.
Yeah.
It should be, yeah. But, to be fair,
Yeah.
I disagree with being able to go to war at 16.
That yes, I do think 16 is a bit young to be able to join the army.
Really young.
Yeah, like really young. I don't think
It's
I could.
crazy.
Yeah, imagine if our 16-year-olds in like our neck of the woods in Wisconsin could go to war. Like it would be just an absolute shit fest.
You're not even close to being developed at 16.
Yeah, I know. And now it's just kind of like you're going to war now. See ya. Yeah,
Like, don't you want, like,
I think
full-grown people?
yeah. I'd still agree that 16 is a bit immature for an age to go to war. However, if that is going to be the age that you put people to war, then you should definitely be able to vote when you're 16.
Agree.
As a matter of principle.
Agree.
I mean, if they change the law to say that you can only join the army after 18, then yeah, one of the laws needs to change. Is what I'm saying.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, like you either vote at 16 or you don't join the army until 18.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would personally, I would go for the 18. It might just because like that's what I'm used to, but
yeah,
I really don't think a 16-year-old should go to war.
Yeah.
At all. But
all right. Moving on.
All right. So
the terrorist incident in Manhattan.
Yep.
If you don't know, a Home Depot rental truck driven by a man from Uzbekistan who
will remain nameless.
Who will remain nameless.
They give it a bit attention.
Hell no.
Fuck that guy.
He rented a Home Depot truck and essentially drove down a bike lane for what I think was 8 blocks.
Well, the article I read was about a mile.
Okay, yeah. It's about 8 blocks New York wise.
All right.
But yeah,
8 people were killed.
Now I do definitely condemn him. I condemn his actions. However, Trump jumped on this within the hour to like be like, oh, we need. I believe he recommended sending him to Gitmo to get trialed. Oh.
Yeah. He wants to consider the attack suspect or this man from Uzbekistan as an enemy combatant.
Mm-hmm.
Which means they could treat him as a prisoner of war, which means they could send him to Guantanamo Bay.
To Gitmo. Send him to Gitmo. Geet.
Yes. Yes. And McCain and Graham are completely on board.
I'm not surprised.
Last episode we talked about McCain as
like the new leader of the Republican Trump resistance.
The Republican resistance is on board to sending this man to Guantanamo.
To arguably the worst prison in the world.
Yeah. Politically
wise and treatment wise.
Alright, keep going.
The man did have Islamic imagery on his phone, and I do believe he did have other things at his house that proved he was convinced by ISIS or was a member of ISIS.
Yep.
Trump called for closing borders, all this other stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so you're going to recommend all this legislation, how this shooter is just an absolute shithead who needs to be sent to what is hell on earth.
Yeah.
However, when it came to his whole response on Vegas, like the dude didn't even put up like we need some sort of control on guns. Just like, even though, and okay, now don't take me wrong on
That
this.
Vegas shooter was not named a terrorist.
Yeah, he didn't name the Vegas shooter terrorist.
Which, well,
Even though by all definitions, I think
he could have been.
I
But
mean, if you're
they
going,
didn't find a motive, so, or they still haven't found a motive. I'm pretty sure.
they haven't found a motive. No.
They, in like the textbook definition is you have to have, or
You have to have a motive for instilling fear.
yeah,
think.
like a political or ideological or religious, obviously, belief or
Yeah.
motive, whatever.
Even though I'd still definitely call it domestic terrorism.
I would too, but yeah.
I mean, yeah. Anyways, so Trump's willing to like throw the entire book in half at the guy in Manhattan.
But the book and a half
Yeah.
tells him he can't do that.
Yeah.
Because this dude's been here since 2010.
Yeah.
He's a permanent resident.
Mhm.
He has his documentation and stuff. He's an American citizen.
Yeah, I believe he's got a wife and 3 kids too. Don't take that as a mean to humanize him, but go on.
But McCain came out with a statement that he's a terrorist and should be kept in Guantanamo Bay, and he should not be read his Miranda rights.
I believe the guy waived his Miranda rights.
Did he?
He did.
Okay.
But
he still has a right to be read the Miranda rights because he's an American citizen.
yeah, true.
Even though he is a really disgusting human being, I don't get the point of it though. Because like you're gonna find him guilty. He's gonna be life in prison. Like, what's
Yeah, when he
just read him his rights. He has rights. He's an American citizen. He's
Yeah.
a terrible person. He's going to be found guilty.
Yeah.
What is the difference?
I believe another thing is that because New York considers what he did which is manslaughter with a vehicle, I believe because it's considered a capital case in New York, he is eligible for the death penalty.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I do not agree with the death penalty at all in any cases. Yeah.
But this would be the first person if he was sent to Guantanamo. He would be the first person arrested on American soil sent there.
Sent to Gitmo? Damn.
The first one.
Yeah.
It's never happened before.
There was a second man that they were saying who was apprehended. However, after questioning, he was let go. And I guess after a thorough searching from the FBI.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was me attempting to put spandex on a hand.
The glove doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Oh, OJ got out of prison.
Oh yeah, the glove does not fit. You have to acquit.
Yo, I saw this joke.
Oh,
I saw this joke, and this guy was talking, and he was like, O.J. Simpson, he was innocent. Do you know why? He's like, I watched that trial. The glove did not fit. You know who has small hands? Donald Trump.
Oh boy.
And he's like,
Here's
I cracked the case, folks. Donald Trump committed the murder.
You want to know who was accomplice? The Zodiac killer, Ted Cruz.
It was pretty good. It was good. I did not see that like going, but
Political opponents in the streets, freaks in the sheets. Ted Cruz and Donald Trump.
all right, let's get that image out of our mind.
Yep.
You got anything else to say on this?
Not really. It was a terrorist act. It was my hopes and wishes go out to all the families involved. And
Yep.
yeah. But going
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
the
these.
Zodiac killer and the new suspect in the OJ trial,
What?
as you were saying, the big man himself,
The big,
the big man with small hands,
the orange man,
DJT.
the orange man, the small
Yeah.
hands. Hey.
Now, just a little forewarning. I do not want to go back to the hellscape that is uh, the 2016 primaries, specifically the Democratic ones.
But some
But
shit went down this week.
shit went down this week, and I feel it needs to be said. And I'm just gonna put a disclaimer, even though I fucking hate talking about this slow, grinding, grueling race that was the presidential election of 2016. I'm going to try to make this, you can take my word for this, the only time in this podcast where I'm just going to do it once. I'm going to get it out of my head, and I do not want to talk about it again because there are way bigger issues than just going back to hell over and over and over again. So, uh, this week, Donna Brazile, who you may know as the interim DNC head after Debbie Wasserman Schultz had stepped down, came out and said that when she had inherited the position, uh, her she had been told that essentially the DNC was broke.
Yeah, they were
They
millions of dollars in debt.
were millions of dollars in debt, and pretty much it all stemmed from the fact that Hillary Clinton had signed documents that the money in the DNC would go to her. Like, and this is way back in August of 2015, so this was just a couple months after she ran, or she announced she was running at least. And pretty much it's using the DNC's campaign funds that they had placed aside for Bernie in order to be used, or well, whoever had won in the Democratic presidential debate. And I mean, O'Malley was still on the table, uh, even though Bernie was a no-name. He was still in the mentions. He was still in the menchies, tearing up them DMs of the Democratic National Committee. Um, uh, I'll let you continue, because
Where are we at? Sorry.
so pretty much she inherited the DNC, finding out it was broke because Hillary Clinton had signed the documents that said she was the official nominee like a whole year before she should have actually signed them to say that she was the nominee. And like as I was saying, O'Malley and Bernie were still announcing bids way back then.
Yeah.
And essentially it's just this horrible backstabbing thing that I guess really anyone who had given money to Bernie's campaign and I can't say could tell you with proof, but that any money sent towards the DNC you could have well assumed was not going to Bernie. And as an extension of Hillary Clinton taking money from the DNC too early, it seriously undermined and underpaid all the local elections. So like representative and Senate races, uh, even just like state representative, like in-state representatives, like those, they were massively underpaid, or like a very small fraction of the money would actually go to them. Um, so
So those leaked emails
yeah, all
were right, but didn't go far enough.
yeah,
She literally took over the party.
yeah, almost a year too soon. And I mean, even Elizabeth Warren came out and said that Hillary had told her personally not to run because it was quote unquote Hillary's turn to run.
Wait, who said this to Warren?
I believe it was either a Clinton staffer or Clinton herself that said it was her turn and that Elizabeth Warren should not run.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and
I
then
didn't see that.
and now Donald Trump is trying to wedge his way into this by saying like, "Oh, corrupt Hillary stole the primary election from Bernie Sanders," and then in commas, "who I would have beat anyways." uh,
Wrong.
why aren't Sanders
Wrong.
supporters? Yeah, wrong. Why why aren't Sanders supporters try or no? He said, "Why isn't FBI and CIA looking into this?" And like essentially, Trump, keep your fucking nose out of this, because
Yeah.
this is like having you or trying to pit you as an ally against the DNC is the last thing that any true Bernie policy supporter would want, is putting your name on the same page as ours.
No kidding.
Um, yeah. So, going, staying on track here, I would like to do a short little summary and like how this boneheaded decision to like fully staff Clinton with
Fuck the
all
Democrats.
yeah, fuck the Democrats.
And how we got
how we
orange
got
face
shaft.
fuck nuts in there right now.
There we go, dude. You're the new leader of the resistance now. With that one. Orange face fuck
Yo.
nuts. Oh, I'm gonna call him Durble Grimph, and then
Wait,
gets.
I'm taking over McCain's spot.
Oh yeah, you're taking over McCain's. Yeah.
George W. Bush.
Ooh, I don't know about that one.
Shoot. Okay. Number 2. I'll settle for that one.
So, this boneheaded thing to campaign, and like, I don't know how you could run on like Clinton's policy or Clinton's essential like public policy. Like, of course, you could go on to like HillaryClinton.com or whatever and just be like, oh, I wonder what the issues are on Hillary Clinton. Like, anyone could tell you to look there. However, most Americans are dumb enough to just be like, well, fuck the internet. What does the person on the TV gotta say?
Right.
Like, because the internet requires you to use your fingers to actually type in a website. Meanwhile, the
lazy.
TV is just like eye candy right there in front of you.
I
So,
don't know if you could call Hillary Clinton eye candy.
oh god, okay, I take that back all the way. We might have to cut that out.
Cut. Edit.
Yeah, cut, edit, whatever. Anyways, the her entire campaign was not policy, and one of the and honestly one of the big things that Wisconsin definitely needs is essentially a Democrat with policy,
With good policy.
with good policy, I should say, and not just a policy of we're not them.
We're not. Yeah, we're not them.
Yeah, like honestly, that would probably be like
This
in the
what she-
finalist for Democrats' 2018 slogan is just we're not them.
Her whole campaign was, it's my turn.
Yeah, it's my turn.
I'm not him.
Hmm.
I am Obama's third term.
Pretty much, yeah. And like when you say stuff like, "Oh, America's already great," it's just like, okay, tell that to a person of color or a youth
You-
person of color.
No. You don't even have to bring race into this. You could just a Wisconsin man who lost his job at a paper mill because TPP shipped his job or not.
Or TPP would have shipped his job.
TPP would have shipped his job because, TPP would have made it available for them to ship it overseas, and he
Mhm.
would have lost his job.
And even if he did lose his job, we're talking about like any sort of poor person who's struggling to get by on bills, and then you hear like the quote unquote the face of America, or like as they say, like the face of America, the most qualified candidate in history, is going on stage and telling you like everything here's great. Like that would be the worst slap in the face to anyone.
It's like that. It's like that meme with the dog in the burning house.
Oh yeah, this is
He's
fine.
like
Yeah, he's
sipping his coffee or whatever. This is fine. This is fine.
yeah,
The whole house is burning down.
yeah. And I mean, essentially, that's what that whole like America's already great speech was. And good God, her spot in the polls should have tanked after
That honestly
that.
sounds like something Reagan would say.
Oh
Or like
yeah,
one of the Republicans would say back
Yeah.
in the day.
that sounds like something that some dude bought off by like fucking
We are America. We are great.
yeah, some dude that's getting paid like $100,000 an hour by like friggin' Northrop Grumman to say like, oh yes, drone strikes are good for the economy. They're good for drone strikes are great for poor people. America's already great. Like some sort of jump like that.
True.
I could see him saying like America's already great, but like the person who has been deemed as like
Is supposed to be the liberal in the
yeah,
in
who
the
is
election.
supposed to be like the person who is like the main proprietor of all like the minority and poor vote. Saying that is just moot essentially.
Yeah.
It doesn't drive people to it doesn't drive people to vote for your opposition, but it definitely drives people to not vote for you. And going back to the shit campaign that was Hillary Clinton's campaign, um, you look at Wisconsin, and many people in here, I would really think would swing to socialist like issues such as Medicare for all, um, more representations in unions. I mean, holy shit! You look at the Walker, you look at friggin' Scott Walker and Paul Ryan, and how do you like? Okay, we may hate both of those guys because of their ideologies and everything,
Right.
but a whole, and I don't even know if they can break 50% in approval in Wisconsin.
uh
Well, maybe Walker, but that's because people.
Walker might hit 50. No,
But
he
even,
might. I don't know. I don't
but
know.
anyway,
he
Paul,
might hit
anyway, Paul Ryan is just already known around these parts as like a complete piece of shit.
Yeah.
But the only reason we keep voting for him is because we haven't had a Democrat that policy wise would be able to beat him out. Like, okay, Paul and like, oh yeah, go to Donald Trump. You think he's gonna let a union guy sit at his table?
Absolutely not.
He'd probably see him walk in with dirty boots and tell him to leave the conference room immediately.
Probably.
And like then you look at Hillary Clinton and it's like, dear God, no, she wouldn't be seen anywhere next to a union member. And then essentially when
Yeah,
you've
her
lost
dinners, her dinners were like you had to pay $200,000 to get it.
yeah, but it's just like some huge bougie fest essentially.
Yeah.
There was no representation of unions on her side either, and essentially with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton's unionist, the union vote being taken away from the Democrats, or well, just really whenever the union vote is taken away from Wisconsin or the union representative is gone from both representatives, the next thing we're going to look to is abortion and guns, which 10 out of 10 times is going to go to the Republicans,
especially in Wisconsin.
especially in Wisconsin.
We are pretty pro-gun.
And I know with Bernie Sanders traveling to West Virginia and like bringing up all these, and like even bringing up the whole Medicare for all.
Yeah, he got a room full of Republicans
To his-
or
He got
people that identify as Republicans to
essentially
give a standing ovation to single payer,
mhm.
free college, gun
Yeah.
control.
Yeah, ironically, gun control.
So if Bernie's, I
If-
mean,
and
if
and,
Bernie
like-
can swing conservatives in West Virginia, I think.
yeah, he can
would-
swing conservatives with socialist policies. The right wing of the Democrats can't swing conservatives to different conservative point of view.
No kidding.
And okay, now Chapo really went into this on Sunday. I'm not sure if you listened to it or not.
I tried to, but I was like at work and stuff. So
Okay, essentially, the Democratic right wing think tank, Third Way, and you can hear more about this on Chapo, as I said.
That's
essentially
not
they
a
went.
paid promotion.
Yeah, yeah, that's their paid promotion of the day. Essentially, they went to Western Wisconsin, which when you go to Wisconsin, there's kind of like, all right, now hold up your left hand, and that's pretty much the shape of Wisconsin. Pretty much from your index finger down to your wrist is Eastern Wisconsin, and the other half is Western Wisconsin. And like Eastern Wisconsin is like these Catholic like people from Germany, Switzerland, like all these like happy-go-lucky countries that are like they're open like okay, essentially Eastern Wisconsin is open to like socialist principles, and they're also the definitely most populated side of socialist and or well definitely the most populated in general. I mean, you go north and the deer population outnumbers the regular population by like a ratio of like 350 to 1.
It's true. There's no one.
There's no one up there. Like if you live full time up north, like you're either A, insane, or B, like
Retired.
yeah, retired essentially. Retired and you don't mind snow blowing your front yard all winter. So essentially you've got the crazies that live up north. Well, not quite the crazies, but the less populous, much more right wing people that live out north that
They're
are
like,
easily
like
overpopulated.
they're the individualists that like
Oh, yeah.
live on their own and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much it's individualism.
It's just the
which-
culture up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Which
you
is
come
okay.
down to like our side, west or south. I don't even want to say it's southeastern, just eastern Wisconsin. Pretty much from like if you were to draw a line from Madison all the way up to the top of Wisconsin, it's east and west. It's east and west Wisconsin, and the eastern side of Wisconsin is more of like the Cruz wing of or the Cruz wing of Republicans, like where where like okay, Cruz is definitely not gonna be the Union supporter of the Republicans,
Oh,
but he's more sane than Donald Trump. And like even if you look at the Republican map of or like the Republican primary map of Wisconsin, like there's one side that's yellow and there's one side that's red
for Trump and Cruz.
for Trump and Cruz. And even in and good God, there were many Wisconsinites that were convinced like, holy crap, like, okay, if it's Bernie and Cruz, we're gonna go Bernie because he's got the union vote, or he represents the union. Um, and so essentially, Third Way had gone to western and northern Wisconsin, and their first meeting was in Ellsworth, and essentially it was just racist farmers who were just like, these goddamn Mexicans are taking all the germs, and all these jobs are open, but the kids are too busy smoking weed.
Classic.
which is a whole different issue of its own, but nothing that the right wing Democrats would do. And then they held another meeting with what was essentially guys from like that were just union heads, or like guys that actually represented unions, and they said like, we fucking hate the Ryans, we fucking hate the Walkers, but there's no one that the Democrats have
Like
who have
presented.
who have presented.
Like, with a candidate. For
Like even in fucking Scott Walker's when we attempted to overthrow Scott Walker, like we
Yeah.
decided like, you know what, we need Tom Barrett Part 2 Electric Boogaloo to go up to the fucking stage.
That like recall election was awful.
Yeah, like oh, it didn't work 2 years ago, maybe it'll work now.
Did they run the same Democrat?
Yeah, they ran Tommy Barrett twice.
It's terrible.
And and like okay, so if you don't know who Tom Barrett is, like he's essentially the mayor of Milwaukee, which is about enough said.
Yeah, don't.
He used to be a congressman, but and he used to be a congressman that worked on like flood control and like other stuff within the EPA. So that was kind of like his specialty. But essentially, he was tied so much into like the Milwaukee, like just like in Milwaukee, Milwaukee's been rated like has having one of the most segregated school systems in the nation, and that's not even close to being a secret within the state. Um,
Uh-huh.
just so many jobs have left Milwaukee in the recent years. I mean, it's almost like even to people who live where we live, just in Sherwood here, like Milwaukee is almost a different state. It,
Yeah.
like you can
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it is.
like if it wasn't such a major expo for like trade and everything, like we consider Milwaukee as part of Chicago, to be honest.
Well, it almost seems like it is. Like it
Yeah,
just seems like it.
like to people in Green Bay, or like even up to I think like even up to Sheboygan, which is which is northern crazy Milwaukee. Well, not even close to Milwaukee in population wise, but like Sheboygan's like the last town that most people would consider before like essentially leaving the state
Right.
up here. And honestly, distrust in how Milwaukee is run, or how Milwaukee was run, is essentially what lost Tommy Barrett is what lost him the bid, or at least among the union workers it was, because he was not union friendly. So Walker gets in again on essentially abortion is bad, guns are good.
And fuck the teachers.
Oh yeah, and fuck the teachers too. Um,
Yeah.
and so pretty much
He
third
won the
way.
recall election by
What was it like?
7 points.
Yeah, 53-46, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, which I think almost mirror. Which no, I think it was actually a larger margin than what he actually won the gubernatorial bid in.
What year was that in? I
I
wanna.
believe it was 2010. We got our fact checker on board here.
20. Oh, 2010. Oh boy.
What do we
Walker
got?
came defeating Tom Barrett. Okay, I want to know.
We want numbers, god damn it!
Yes. All right, Sue. He won his first, or in 2010, by it was 52.3% to 46.5. So yeah, he won by a larger margin,
Yeah,
basically.
he won by a larger margin essentially, which is frankly disgusting that it came down to that.
It's crazy that we got a recall.
I know. So going back to why Bernie and how this ties into Bernie would have won. Um, Essentially, we have not had someone that represents unions here on the Democratic side in a while, and the union stance of the Clinton wing of Democrats will not win Wisconsin. It won't. Um, I mean, you even look at Iron Stash and Kathy Myers, who are going up against Ryan in the Kenosha district, and their policies, and I believe Iron Stash is actually tied with Paul Ryan right now, or at least recent polls have shown that he's tied with Paul Ryan right now in Kenosha, which is huge because you got this one guy who's a piece of shit that has essentially been like the stooge for the Republican Party. And then you got the guy who's like, I'm homegrown, I'm pro union, and I'm actually pro Medicare for all because because he can explain it, and even that's the same thing with Kathy Myers, and I think now kind of going off topic here, but like Kathy Myers is essentially like the more socialist um, bid into the 2018 vote. And I believe like Iron Stash has been running away from her. Um, like I don't want to say he's gone Hollywood, but essentially the dude has been kind of like the attention I think has gotten to him,
Yay.
which he can't, which he honestly can't let get to him. Otherwise, he will lose to Paul Ryan again. Because if it's one thing that uh, Wisconsinites like, it's that they stay focused on the people in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like Paul Ryan is just everything and like even though he's from Janesville, like everything about him is DC piece of shit millionaire, piece of shit billionaires. and and like yeah, that those are legitimate reasons as to why people from Wisconsin hate him is because he has essentially lost his Wisconsin
Citizenship.
citizenship and as shitty as that sounds, or I should say the moral citizenship of Wisconsinites.
Right.
Um, so yeah, we we would rather like yeah, people would rather stay with a piece of shit, but he's from Wisconsin. As dumb as it sounds, people from Wisconsin would rather keep a piece of shit from Wisconsin than to than to vote in a sellout. We're very purity based, based on like local issues and essentially bread and butter issues like or kitchen table issues. That's what I'm thinking of. Um, Stuff that affects us at the dinner table. We don't care about um, like this whole Russia thing. Like
That's so true.
like honestly, you ask anyone in Russia like how it affected like anything, and they're just like I think and like most people are just like I've lost track of it because like now you got Mensch and Garland going out and just being like, oh well, um, the reason why the guy from ISIS who did that shit in Manhattan. He did that because of the Mueller indictments and like all this other stuff. Like it's gone beyond like the it's gone beyond parody essentially. Like the Onion couldn't make this shit up.
True.
So like yes, if the Democrats' focus is gonna be Russia, 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 and not my family is dying because we can't get food or proper health care,
They're not gonna
they're not gonna win. Simply stated. And
win. All right.
like Bernie was one of the only Democratic candidates who in a while, or in a long time at least, to pretty much any from Wisconsin, who like who actually understood the issues that were going on in Wisconsin.
Actually
Like
cared.
like yeah, actually cared.
Yeah.
And
Pretty little one.
yeah, Bernie would have won essentially is what it boils down to. And I mean like even more going in depth. Sheboygan County, as fucked up and as stupid as some people in Sheboygan County are, in the open primary, they voted 25% for Trump. They wound up getting, and Trump wound up winning Sheboygan County. Like Bernie, like Bernie outbeat him by like 3,000 votes, which actually
In
is
the primary.
in the primary, which actually is a pretty big margin considering
They're split.
how they're split. And I mean, Cruz blew him out in that state too by like 38% because Kasich had like he wound up upsetting with 15%. And like even in Madison, like John Kasich only lost by like I think it was 600 votes to Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it went like 38-20-20.
Yeah. Wisconsin didn't really like Trump
Yeah, Wisconsin hates Trump.
during the primaries, at least.
Yeah, during the primaries at least, it was very evident that we hated Trump. And like the only and like running on well, we're not Trump. Well, yeah, but what do you bring to the table? What do you mean what do we bring to the table? We're not Trump. Didn't work. And and if this repeats in 2018, we're doomed to repeat ourselves again. Like no matter how grueling and how long the 2016 primary is again, we're looking at 2016.5 next year.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. I'm looking forward to it, buddy.
Yeah. And so
You went to town on that.
yeah. And now
Give me some
kind
nuts.
of giving it some nuts. I'd like it now. I know this rant is going on for far too fucking long.
We could go on longer.
Yeah, and now it's just like, and I just kind of want to segue into like the future of the Democratic Party and what they're looking into, like why they're going to lose still. Honestly, you can't just you look at labor across the Labor Party, like it only took like Jezza completely like upset. All the like the right wing part of his party had like the full vote, and they're just like, well, fuck it, let him run, whatever. He'll probably lose to May in like the special election, and then like even getting the hung parliament was like huge
Yeah.
because it meant that Labor's and why? Because he ran on left wing principles that actually mattered.
Two people.
Yeah, and like you, what is it? Jim Messina. He was one of Obama's campaign managers,
Okay.
and he went overseas to work with the conservative Tory party
Uh-huh.
and lost.
What a chump.
Yeah, you can listen to more of that also on Chapo, another fucking plug-in, because I'm an addict. Okay,
It's a good show.
it is a good show. It really
They're
is.
funny. They're funny.
Now time-wise, we might be running pretty long. I think we're sitting
I
at.
think we're sitting about hour and 15.
Oh boy. Okay.
So, do you got anything else you want to talk about?
You know what? I will.
You did go to town.
I did go to town. I'm probably gonna wind up cutting out a bunch of it too. So we'll run this part anyways. If you don't know him, he goes by the at respectable lawyer, and
Ooh.
he essentially does like these huge long threads on Twitter about just generally the biggest pieces of shit that are in that really exist. And like before last week's show, I wanted to actually get permission from him to use his threads before actually explaining them on the show. So I just kind of explained it to Jacob in a fucking Office Max parking lot before actually doing this. But so this thread is where he essentially goes up against a billionaire Texan GOP donor, and in the strip and the exotic dancer he nearly killed, and the photo he does not want people to see. So he starts out. Marcus Hiles is a real estate tycoon. He's stupidly and obscenely rich. That's something that he very much wants you to know. And like any modern billionaire, Marcus promotes his image on social media with photos of him standing awkwardly near things he paid for. By the way, this is kind of like a Chapo reading series, essentially. But instead of making fun, we mostly just kind of agree with a lot of the stuff he did.
I want to look at this.
Oh boy, switching sides here. Hang on a sec. Perfect. Alright, so essentially it's just him posing next to him doing paperwork and looking out windows. So, and photos of him in an office pretending to work. And more photos. And menacingly creepy video, and menacingly creepy photos of him walking into bathrooms. The man has a Tumblr called The Net Worth of Marcus Hiles Empire. Platinum level stuff. And yes, he has a Twitter account at Marcus Hiles.
Hey.
What's up, Marcus? Keep doing your shit. He's not been very active recently, but his posting game is always on point. Reminds me of the old Kanye, not the new Kanye.
I like the old Kanye.
And Marcus Hiles posted, Marcus Hiles remains steadfast about planting trees. .jpg. I think it's an Imgur URL, but whatever. So Hiles was known for being a GOP mega donor. He gave ridiculous amounts of money to the far-right mutants who currently run the state, which is essentially him sitting at a table with Ted Cruz and, holy shit, I think that's Rick Perry on the other side. He'd been appointed to various state committees by the governor and lieutenant governor. He was poised to help shape the state's tax policy. So there was Marcus Hiles, living the American dream of controlling a state government while eating black market panda meat. Oh, and strip clubs. Marcus's version of the American dream was very much included in Dallas area strip clubs. According to court records, Mr. Hiles became very friendly with a 29-year-old dancer at a Dallas strip club. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Court filings show that the relationship was built on the solid foundation of Mr. Hiles buying the dancer a $160,000 Bentley.
Oh, nice. That's a
Oh,
nice one.
and he also gave her jewelry and $150,000 in cash. So yeah, I'm just gonna completely strap up this what is essentially a dancer for him. So one weekend, uh, Marcus tells his wife that he's going on a business trip, and instead he takes his newly purchased arm candy to Vegas. At a Vegas club, the young lady left Mr. Hyles' side for a time to frolic with other revelers and merrymakers as one tends to do. But see, the thing about men like Mr. Hyles is when they buy arm candy, they expect their arm candy to stay bought. Ooh boy. Leaving his
You're
side,
gonna go rogue.
leaving his side, even if it was just to dance to Little John's banger, turned down for what, or whatever, was unacceptable to Mr. Hyles. And it says here in a paper news article, the assault occurred on October 12, 2012. After a night of drinking, according to an Las Vegas police report, the woman told police that she left his side for a while at a nightclub, and he was quote unquote upset at her leaving. Hiles dragged her to the elevator, and then things started to get violent. The reports cite a hotel elevator video showing that when the woman tried to make a call, the two struggled over her cell phone until Hiles threw the woman to the floor and began stomping the phone. The video, parts of which were viewed by the news, show Hiles trying to take the phone away and in the tassel, pushing her to the floor. So essentially, assault for not being his girl, which is he's a piece of shit, bona fide piece of shit.
Hey.
Way to go. Way to go, Mr. Hiles, on being a fucking dweeb. Imagine being in this situation. You are alone with a violent man who has just destroyed an item essential for your personal security. And then it gets worse. The woman reported once they were in their hotel room, Hiles punched her, dragged her by the hair, then choked her into unconsciousness. She told police she thought she was going to die. Yeah. You know, this is the kind of stuff that got like Ray Rice completely like
Yeah, no kidding.
decimated. And like how oh my god. Before knowing about the elevator video, Hiles chaired the woman Hiles claimed the woman jumped him when they were alone. Oh boy.
BS.
But the responding officer knew the story was BS before seeing the video. And the police report notes that Hiles said essentially Hiles claims that the woman had jumped him. The officer wrote that Hiles' version of the story was not consistent with his injuries, while the woman suffered marks on her neck, swelling and reddened eyes, a hoarse voice, a torn-off fingernail, and scratches throughout her body.
Ouch.
Hiles pled guilty to a misdemeanor, got off with probation, and 35 hours of community service, and managed to keep the whole thing quiet. Yeah. God, God bless America, you know? Just assault a dancer and assume that everything is going to be like, yeah, and get off with 35 hours of community service. What the fuck?
Go America's.
Yeah, America's justice system.
Yeah.
We are number one, very number one, the best number one. But 2 years later, the story broke near election season with a very snappy lead. And essentially, its article says one of the largest donors to the Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick pleaded guilty to a domestic charge that included an accusation he choked a woman into unconsciousness. And the silver lining is that the Texas governor and lieutenant governor got shamed into giving their donations from Hiles to domestic abuse charities. That's good. No, the only like good thing that ever came out of this. Most of the political PACs had already spent their money, so no luck there, and some refused to give back the money, like the New Mexico governor. Still, close to $1 million went to various Austin area women's shelters and other charities. Hiles was also kicked off the state policy committees, and that's also pretty cool. Anyway, there's an elderly retired journalist who has a personal blog on politics. She's been posting for years. and she wrote a post mocking Hiles and included his what was essentially his mugshot photo with him bandaged on his nose and head. But there he is, smiling like a smug piece of shit. It's a small blog, readership in the thousands, but it's read by an audience of Texas political professionals and insiders. She's got a series of weird emails from Mr. Hiles. He told her that the Dallas Morning News took down the photo and that she should too. So essentially, he's like paying these guys to like keep this thing under the rug as much as possible.
Right.
He claimed that her blog's publication of the mugshot had infringed on his right to privacy. So she called me, an actual lawyer, because knowing me as she does, she knew I might enjoy making this awful man go away. And she was right. I wrote a long, utterly weird letter to the billionaire criminal, which I've reproduced below for your enjoyment. And I'm not reading that because we're already like half an hour beyond schedule.
True.
But since you're on Twitter, I know that you must be busy, so I'll give you the cliff notes. The first rule of legal letters is to identify the subject matter of the controversy, which was a 5.07 kilobyte JPEG of you in portrait perspective, sporting band-aids in the style of celebrated hip-hop superstar Nelly. The image depicts your condition in the aftermath of non-consensual asphyxiation of a performance artist in Clark County, Nevada. You should also provide a clear warning when dealing with an unrepresented person. I don't know why the Dallas News removed the image. Maybe you advertise with them. Maybe they got tired of your emails. Maybe they were scared that you would choke them into unconsciousness. But my client doesn't need your money. She finds your emails amusing, and I'm not scared of you, old-timer. I'm able to lift a standard-sized Coleman cooler full of Old Milwaukee completely over my head. Which literally everyone in Wisconsin could probably do too. But it would be filled with like Red's Apple Ale or something. Then I explained, very legally and using very Caucasian language, that an individual has no privacy interest in their own mugshot. In fact, under Texas law, you can have a website where you post mugshots and then charge people to remove them. And people do.
That's awesome.
Which, yeah, piece of
I
shit.
should do that.
Dude, yeah, let's start our own mugshot business.
Alright, good.
Dude, when Donald Trump gets indicted, dude, we're just gonna charge him like $1 billion to take it off our Twitter page. In any case, I made my position clear to Mr. Hiles. Oh, never mind, I just reread that anyways. I continued expounding on my prowess. During college, I attended 2 walk-on scrimmages with the University of Texas intramural rugby team. While playing that carnival game where you swing the giant hammer, I have approximately a 60% record of hitting the ball, or of hitting the bell. So he's pretty good at doing those carnival games. I wouldn't fuck with him.
True.
I'm young, spry, and not to be trifted with when it comes to matters of fisticuffs. He's gonna take you on a fight. But I see no reason for further pointless violence. Certainly, a man of your business sense understands that a more elegant solution is possible. And he told them my client would remove the image gratuitously if he contributed to one of 4 radical feminist nonprofits she had selected. But in what amount? As they say, the devil is truly in the details. How could we arrive at an objective, or at the very least a symbolic measure of the appropriate financial contribution? Upon an evening of quiet reflection in my personal conservatory, it occurred to me that a fitting and indeed poetic measure would be the market value of a 2012 Bentley. Though a used 2012 Bentley sells for $86,000, my client was willing to be flexible. In all fairness to you, I do recognize your history as a shrewd negotiator. It would not be surprised at all if you were able to shave $2,000 or $3,000 off the asking price in such a transaction through sheer pluck and gumption. As such, it seems to me that $83,000 would be an appropriate final figure for your contribution. Mr. Hiles did not respond to my proposal, and apparently it wasn't worth a used Bentley to make an old lady take down his mugshot. And He's asking for retweets because he needs help teaching this woman beating billionaire about the Streisand effect, which is essentially is a story where Barbara Streisand went to like some vacation out in, oh, I forget where it was in. It was like someplace in the middle of nowhere, and she's just like, I'm chilling here at this beach in the middle of nowhere where no one will find me. And essentially the internet put its heads together and decided, you know what? We're gonna find Barbara Streisand. And it blew up, and they actually found her. And yeah.
Nice.
So,
You go, guy.
moral of the story: don't be a piece of shit like this. Don't be a billionaire piece of shit, essentially.
Oh, man. People.
But you want to know where crime doesn't pay? When you're getting posted in the Sheboygan scanner. Within this week, at a Walmart.
How many we got? 3?
We got 3. At a Walmart, a suspicious baggie was found. Whether that contains whatever sort of narcotics or drugs or weed, you can send it to the boys at the 9190 podcast, and
pencil erasers.
pencil erasers, that too. You can send that little baggie out to the testing facility out at the 9190 podcast, P.O. Box 478, Eat Shit Fuck You Avenue.
It's not a real P.O. box.
Yeah, but Eat Shit Fuck You Avenue is a real street. Highway 23, to all our listeners out there, you just might want to jump on this offer. There is a free wheelbarrow. Probably fell off a truck, but if you're one of those guys in Oklahoma and you're just really addicted to listening to 2 guys fart around in a bedroom, talking politics, talking shit, there's a free wheelbarrow. It's out there. It's waiting for you. It's got your name on it.
It's free while supplies last.
Yep, free while supplies last. And that supply is precisely 1. And to wrap it up, in the Sheboygan Marina, emergency medical people were called to a car surfing accident. Which, if you don't recognize from fucking Saints Row, it's where you stand on top of a car while someone's driving it and try to ride it.
Marina, they call them?
Yeah, so essentially where the boat docks are.
Right, so they were trying to car surf in, like...
They fell off.
Into the water?
I doubt it. I think they were just looking for, like, a parking lot to try this out on, as opposed to an actual roadway.
That's fantastic. That's funny.
So yeah, always wear your helmet when car surfing, That's how we can reduce car surfing incidents.
Or just don't go car surfing.
Well, no, you can't have total abstinence from car surfing. You gotta wear protection,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to oppress you.
Yeah. You can't repress my car surfing desires. Gotta wear safety when you're car surfing.
Safety goggles.
Now you gotta take your car surfing control pills.
Wear a cup.
Or a cup. Yep. Maybe get a car surfing vasectomy, so that there is no problem with car surfing.
All right, dog. Let's wrap this up. My nose hurts.
All right, because Jake has suddenly developed a
sinus infection.
A sinus infection. Within the last 30
I'm not lying
minutes.
either. I just went to the doctor. I have a sinus infection.
All right, because Jake is dying, we are gonna have to wrap this podcast up. Big Gonzo.
And bodacious Midwesterner.
Peace.